What's good, everybody? Um, want to say all praises to the Most High, and we do so in His only forgotten Son, Yahweh Shai, right? I know y'all see the title. The title is "What Do Jewish People Teach?" Right? And I mean, because we gotta understand that you know they follow this thing called Judaism, right? And a lot of us don't understand what Judaism is. We just think it's just another religion, which is true. It is just another religion, Judaism. We're not talking about what we talk about here, us being Israelites and going through these scriptures and breaking them down, you know, through the spirit. But you have something called Judaism that they practice, right? And so we kind of gonna get into try to tackle two topics today. We're gonna talk about that, and then get into like how we show and prove that we are the Israelites through the scriptures. Because like I always said, you can prove who we are through uh, biblical prophecy, archaeology, and history. So we're just gonna tap into a little bit of the biblical prophecies and and touch on a little bit of the history at the same time. But concerning the Jewish people, right? Yeah, say it like that. Um, they read something called the Talmud, right? They have this book called the Talmud, and they read something called the Mishnah. And so these are two books that is outside of the Bible, of course, outside of what they would call the Torah or the Tanakh, right? And the Torah is just the first five books of the Bible. Tanakh is what we will call the Old Testament, right? So now, and it's important to understand that why these people read the Mishnah and the Talmud. Now, my personal opinion, and I say that, you know, like that for a reason. My personal opinion is that going through the scriptures and prophecy, they cannot prove that they are the people of this book. So that's why they have another book that they read from that they created called the Talmud and the Mishnah, which they say explains the New Testament, right? And then a lot of that stuff that you will read in the Talmud and the Mishnah goes against what Moses had written. So, and we know that anything that's outside of the scriptures is wrong. But they have to try to, incorporate themselves in it in some type of way. So before we get into the some of their teachings that they read that they have in their Talmud, um, let's just read this one thing real quick. This is Isaiah 34:16, right? So it says, "Seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read," meaning this, Bible, this book that we read, that's what we should be seeking out of. This is what we should be reading from. This is what we need to be understanding. And so it says, "Seek ye out of the book and read." It didn't say seek out of the Talmud. It didn't say seek out of the Mishnah or any of these other extra biblical books that they read. It says, "Seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read. None of these shall fail. None shall want her mate." Meaning, once you get the full understanding of this Bible, you will see that no other book compares to the knowledge and the wisdom that this Bible has. And you are, not gonna need another book to match it up with this book because this book is superior. Even if you want to touch on the Islam thing for a second, the word Islam means to recite, right? I mean, well, Quran means to recite, right? So, and the Quran is reciting the Bible in so many different ways, and it tells you that. Even if you read the Quran tells you that God's people is the Israelites. It don't say that the Arab people are the Israelites. It says God peoples are the Israelites. It tells you to, when you get into trouble, look at the prophets. And where is the prophets? in the Old Testament. Where is the Old Testament? Is what we call the Bible today. So when it tells you that, let me read it one more time. So when it tells you that, and none of these shall fail, and none shall want her mate. So it's letting you know that you cannot find any other equivalents to this wisdom and knowledge that you will find in this book. And number one, this is our history. I mean, and so you got to understand that. Because we're still in what they call Black History Month. So yeah, we're still touching on that. This is our history. So you got to understand, like, this being our history, that, um, this is what we draw upon. This is our resource. This is what we, you know, gather our strength from. It's not no mystical book where, you gotta, some type of magic stuff is going on in here. It's not. When you read it, you'll see that this thing is very, very practical. You know, and it's not all that, magical Harry Potter stuff going on in this book. All right, but just that Christianity did a good job on manipulating and creating this whole story that got us all jammed up with our understanding. So, so it says, "Seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read, and none of these shall fail. None of these shall one her make. For her mouth is have commanded, and the spirit have gathered them." So, like I said, so this is where we gather to. This is how we come together by understanding this wisdom and knowledge. So, I read that scripture to show that we don't need no, you know, outside, spiritual text to to complement the Bible. The Bible is enough once you understand it. So, and I brought in, and the reason why I mentioned that they read the Talmud and the Mishnah, because like I said, I'm showing you that these people are not the people of the book. So let's see what some of the stuff that they teach. So it says, this is a Solarem 1 and 5, right, out of the Jewish Talmud, right, and it says, even the beasts of the Goyim, all should be killed, right. So now, when you look at that word in Hebrew, Goyim means nations, people from other nations, people that's usually outside of Israel, right? And it says, uh, this is a Behemoth Godfrey or something, right? All the children of the Goyim are animals. So this is how they feel about you. So Goyim is people that's outside of Israel. So now you got these people that's going around calling themselves Israeli or Jewish people, right? But and you wonder why when you at the grocery store and they, you know, look right past you like they don't notice you, or you might speak to one of those people and they just look at you crazy sometimes, right? Like like you got you know something on your face. So and it tells you that it says the goyim is what is it? It says all the children of the goyim are animals. So it's talking about your little babies, your little kids, all your little children is nothing but animals to them. That's why they look at you like that. Then it says, now this is uh Balthazar Mazia 11 4b. Then it says Gentiles goys are not human. So this is why they treat you like that. This is why they and this is what they teach. And I'm talking about the ones that wear the black hat, the little black little coats, and the black pants, white button up shirts. Them type of people. Those. The orthodoxies, right? And so now this is what they teaching. To their people. This is their understanding. This is what the book that they read, preferably over the Tanakh, because to them, they say this explains the Tanakh. So they would read this first. And so you got to understand how they feel about you, and you wonder why they act the way they act. You might say, "Oh, well, Jewish people they act this way, they act that way," and now we reading why because they look at you as animals. They think your children are animals, and what they say, and they think that we're not human. Okay, and we know what the word human means. When you look it up in Latin, human is the word man of color, right? So, and they got the nerve to say that we're not human, right? So it says, now this is the next one. It says, uh, Gadadi Shanas 2 and 2. That the Jew may violate but not marry a non Jewish girl. So basically saying that the Jewish man can have sex with women that's not Jewish, you know, and but they don't have to marry them. So which bring me to what I was telling y'all about a couple of weeks ago that one of my Facebook friends and a lot of hours, should I say, because I'm actually streaming this on YouTube too. So but so a lot of our my Facebook friends, made a post basically talking about how his soulmate is a Jewish woman, but until then he gonna be keep messing with black women, right? And then a lot of our black women and a lot of our black men was high fiving them, you know, uh, digitally, so to speak, and giving them the okay with it. I'm like, they don't even understand what this man just said. He basically saying he's gonna treat our women like whores. Then when he finally decides he want to settle down, he gonna find him a nice little what he call a nice little Jewish woman, right? So it says, read it again. A Jew may violate but not marry a non-Jewish girl. So it's plain. So like I said, they can have sex with all these different women, but he don't have to marry them, And then you wonder why, like I said, how they treat us, like eye candy, and they just, like the, basically the idea of having sex with our women, but they don't want to actually deal with our women, right? Then it says, this is Habadiah Zariah 36b. It says, Gentile Goy, Goy girls are in a state of what is that? In a state of radas uh, since from birth, right? So and meaning that Gentile women or women that's outside of Israeli or Jewish women, they are considered dirty and filthy, right? And because we got something in our law, the real Jews, we got something in our law that you're not supposed to have sex with a woman while she's on her period. So now to them, what they're saying here is any woman that's outside of a Jewish woman should be considered as a woman, looked at as a woman that's on her period all the time. So so that's how they feel about our women. I don't know if y'all seen this video that went viral with this Jewish man spitting in this black woman's face. She was at one of their little functions or something, and and he spit in her face. Then he made himself throw up on her, and she just sitting there. And that's crazy, you know. But yeah, that's how they feel. Then it says, next one. I'm trying to get to this kind of quick. It says a Jewish a Jew may have sex with a hold on. Now let me read this right, because like I said, I'm on YouTube too with this, so I'm gonna read it like this. A Jew may have what you might call then what you study at college a course, right? It says with a child as long as the child is less than 9 years old. So essentially, these people practice pedophilia. They say you can have sex with a child that's 9 years old or less, right? And this is what they teach in their Talmud, right? This is what they teach in their Talmud. And so, for the record, I'm not saying that they actively practice in this, but this is in their books that they read. All right. And but who knows? We're not in their community. We don't know what they do, but we know that this is in their books. That it's okay to have sex with a 9-year old, according to their teachings, right? So it says, this is Eben Hazazar 6 and 9. It says all non-Jewish are prostitutes. So this is how they feel about women that's outside of the Jewish women. All women are prostitutes. Why do you think they, when they do sometimes deal with you, they might offer you some money? Because to them, you ain't nothing but a prostitute anyway. This is what they teach. This is in their book, the Talmud. You can look it up yourself, the Talmud. And they got something called the Mishnah. I had downloaded these books onto my phone on purpose so I can read it and study it myself. Because, it's important to know how these people think. Then it says, boom, boom, boom. If a goy, which is anybody from a different nation, if a goy hits a Jew, must be killed. So even if you hit a Jewish person, you consider it to be worthy of death. Then it says, this is a what's that? Sahadis, I don't know. 57a. When a Jew murders a Gentile, there will be no death penalty. So according to their law, you can kill somebody that's not Jewish, and you don't have to face the death penalty for it. Let's get a few more, right? Then it says if a this is Baba Mesha 24a. If a Jew finds a object lost by a Gentile, it does not have to be returned. And we wonder why these people always stealing. It says they find something of yours, they ain't got to give it back to you, right? Let's get one more. This is Sanhedrin 59a. Murdering a Gentile, which is somebody that's outside of the Jewish community, is like killing a wild animal. So this is how they look at you. And you wonder why they stare at you crazy. They be, how we might say, some of them are real rude. Some I heard people say, call them rude before. And we see why. Because this is what their book teaches. They teach that we're animals, our women are prostitutes and dirty and filthy. It's okay to have sex with them, just don't marry them. You can kill them, and it's just like killing a wild animal. So this is why they have that disdain and that attitude towards our people that is not Jewish, according to them, right? So and that's that. That's what they believe in. So just get So I just want to touch on that real quick to show you when you be out and about, especially if you on the north side, and like they spot is like California and Divine, or to the Lut area, they be over there with their whole little black cats in the suits. And you see how they be looking at you crazy. Or you might run into a family of them in Jules. And you see, like, you might be looking at them, but they looking, like, over your head, like, past you. Because they don't see you. And we see why. Because their book teaches that we're nothing but nasty animals to them. Less than human. That's what they teach in their book. And you wonder why they, we may call them rude and say that they're got, something is wrong with them, how they treat people. Now we see why they act like that, because in their literature, it tells them how to be like that, right? So moving on to the other subject, like I said, getting into far as like using biblical prophecy and scriptures to prove who we are, because we know that they are not who they say they are, you know, and they are the original imposters, the original identity thieves, right? So and we're gonna with our limited resources, we're gonna use the Bible and somewhat of history to prove who we are. So some of this might be a little familiar to some. So now this is we're gonna go to Luke real quick. Start at Luke 21 and 21, right? Because we got to understand the history of how we got to the west coast of Africa, right? And you can also read this book called Babylon to Timbuktu by Rudolph Winslow that he wrote, which is a so-called Jewish man, wrote this book called Babylon to Timbuktu, and it tells how we got to the west coast of Africa, right? So now this is Luke 21 and 20, you want to start at 21. Luke 21 and 21 says, "Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out." So Jesus, Yahweh, who we'll say in Hebrew, is telling us when you see this stuff start happening, run towards the mountains. Then when you look at the map, the mountains is going towards the west, which would be Africa. So we started to flee into the west, Africa, into the wilderness, as we call it. Then over time, it took about a good 1,000 years for us to gather ourselves and until we end up just being in on the west coast of Africa. Because we came through the North Africa, then we settled. Then as time went on, we slowly migrated into the west part of Africa, right? So, and because we got to understand migration uh, patterns too when you're dealing with this type of stuff, in world history. So then it says, "Them that which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter therein." Meaning, if you in this time when you see Jerusalem, Israel getting attacked, um, said don't come back to the country. When you see all this stuff happening, if you out of the country at the time, stay out. Don't come back, right? So that's Yahweh warning the people. And this happened like about at least 50 years or so before it came to pass, right? And I say 50 years or so because I don't count his time living on Earth as you know being part of the BC era, you know. But so then it says, for these for these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. And you can get this prophecy in the book of I believe Amos, right, where it talk about us our destruction during this time because God had laid it off for a later time because He was going to do it during the time of the prophet Amos, but then He laid it off for a future time, which in the future time being during the time of Yahushua, who the world calls Jesus. So that's why it says, "For these be the days of vengeance, that all things may be written, may be fulfilled. But who unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days, for there shall be a great distress in the land, and a wrath upon His people." Because, like I said, so you got to understand how God punishes people, and because we were wicked, following other nations and doing other things, so God had passed judgment, on us, right? And that judgment was for us to be expelled out of the land. But you got to understand how this thing works. We're in contract with the Most High. We are in contract with the Most High God. So whenever we disobey the laws, statutes, and commandments of God, He punishes us and He kicks us out of the land and sends us into slavery, right? Which bring us back to our first topic of them people not being the real Jews, because when you understand that a lot of them are atheists, they are secular in belief. So, and then not only that, they have the world's biggest gay pride parade in Tel Aviv over there in Israel, right? And we know that's all against the scriptures, right? So, and they're still there. So according to biblical prophecy and the contract that we made with God, that whenever we sin or do things that's against God, we will be kicked out of the land. We will, you know, we'll have, go to war with different countries and be taken over. But these people have been over there since 1948. So this understanding prophecy and scriptures should let you know that they're not the people. That's why I say that they use all these other books, because they know they cannot just read the Talmud, and they cannot just read the Talmud and I'm sorry, they cannot just read the the um the scriptures and place themselves into this book. That's why they have to have this all this extra biblical stuff to try to make it seem like that they are the people, such as the Talmud and the Mishnah, right? So it says, but yeah, boom, 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 and they shall fall by the edge of the sword, meaning when the Romans come in and compass the city with this war stuff, so they shall fall by the edge of the sword. Um, it shall fall by the edge of the sword, boom, 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 and shall be led away captive into all nations. So when has the so-called curly haired, uh, circle hat, little small hat people been led away to captive in all nations? Right? It have not happened. And it says, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. And we're living in the times of the Gentiles now. And that's why all these other nations are ruling over us, because their time has not been fulfilled yet. But we're coming towards that end now, as we see America getting ready to be toppled and fall down from being the great empire that it once was. So we're getting ready. We're towards the end of the Gentiles right now, and that's why it's important for us to understand this book and understand our history and understand what we need to do so we can actually be saved when hell breaks loose on this planet. Because you go to church, they tell you, oh, yeah, we're saved. But that's not what the Bible says. The Bible says, who shall endure towards the end, the same shall be saved. So this is not the end yet. You have to live this whole thing out and hope you survive through the end. And as you survive into the end, you keep the faith and you keep the commandments and the statutes that God given us, and hope that we get saved towards the end. Because even Paul, because when you read the New Testament, even Paul, will say that, now Paul, a lot of Christians would believe Paul was a cool dude, righteous man, right? But Paul himself says that he's not even sure of his own salvation. So we cannot just, think that, oh yeah, we're saved because we go to church and we say thank you, Jesus. You know, that's crazy. That's madness. That's not how this works. So you have to keep the commandments and and do the works, and the works is the laws, and to the end, right? So then let's get a few more, right? Let's go to Isaiah 1:7. It says, your country is desolate. Your cities are burnt with fire. Because that's what happened when the Romans came in. This is a prophecy through the prophet Isaiah. It says, your country is desolate. Your cities are burnt with fire. Your land uh, is burnt with fire. Your land, the strangers devour it. The strangers devour it in your presence, and it is desolate and overthrown by strangers. So that's what's over in that land right now. Strangers, people that's not of the covenant, people that are considered Gentiles. That's what's over in that land right now. And it says, let's get a let's get a Ezekiel real quick. 36:5. Ezekiel 36:5, right? And it says, "Therefore, thus saith the Lord, uh, Yahweh, thy power, surely in the fire of my jealousy I have spoken against the residue of the heathen and against all Idumea." Right? Our Idumea is what we would call today the so-called European, the so-called white people, right? Against all Idumea, which have appointed my land into their possession. So who got the possession of the land? The so-called curly-haired people with the small hats. It says, um, which had appointed my land into their possessions, with the joy of their heart, with the spiteful mind, and cast out for a prey. So that's what they did. They kicked us out, and they came over and they took over everything, you know. And we're seeing it to this day. They're still over there because we're still living in the times of the Gentiles, like it said in Luke 21. So now let's get a few more. Let's get Baruch 4:35, right? Says, "For fire shall come upon her from the everlasting long to endure. She shall be inhabited by devils." Why do we call the white man a devil? Because it says, "Fire should come upon her, and from the everlasting long to the endurance, and she shall be inhabited by devils for the great time, for a great time." So these people are considered devils. And what did the word devil mean when you get into the Latin? It means deceiver, liar. That's what it means. Not no type of how you might think when you hear the word devil, you think some type of red man with a pitchfork. No, the word devil means liar, deceiver. That's what it means in the Latin. Okay, so when we call these people devils, we're calling them liars and deceivers, and we know that they are liars and deceivers because they went around the world with a picture that we would know as white Jesus and saying, "Hey, this is Jesus, this white man with long blue, blonde hair and blue eyes." And we know that the Bible says that he's a dark skinned man. So dark that he looked like he burnt in a furnace. That's what Revelation says. So we know these people are deceivers. So that's why we call them devils. Not no demon type spiritual spirit thing. Because the word devil is the root word for diablo, and diablo means deceiver. All right? So let's get Joel real quick. Joel 3:3. It says, "And they shall cast lots for my people." And what does that mean to cast lots for people? When you pull straws and stuff, like you'll pull a straw, then whoever get the long straw or whatever, they win or something, right? Or they lose, depending on how you do it, right? It says, "And they shall pull lots for my people, and give a boy for a harlot, and sold a girl for wine, that they might drink." So that's what they did when they took us to slavery. They emasculated our men, and they sold our women as prostitutes. They traded our women for drinks, like it just said. "And they shall cast lots for my people, and give a boy for a harlot, and a young and sold a girl for wine, that they might drink." Right, and that's what they did. When you get into the time of slavery. So we understand that this happened to our people, that our women was taken and traded for liquor and guns. That our man was taken and emasculated in front of his whole family and made to be soft and weak and then and broken. Right, this happened to us. So not the so-called curly hair people with the small hats. They can't say this happened to them. Because when you get into the history of it, they funded the slave ships. They put up the money for the lumber for the Africans to build the slave ships. They put the money together. Then not only that, then once we got over here, they started their first insurance company. So when you got all these different state farms and uh, all these different insurance companies that's around the country, the start of it. The start of it was Yo Black Eyes being the thing that was being insured. You know That's how this thing worked. They started that. And then not only that, they were some of the first plantation owners over here in the Americas, the so-called Jewish men. All right, that's why a lot of our Haitian people got Jewish last names. That's why a lot of our so-called Hispanic people, Latin people, got Jewish last names. Just like us here in America got English last names because those the people that had us enslaved for the most part. So, and we got to understand this history. So that's why I say we're going to be touching on a little bit of history. And this is stuff that you can research yourself. I'm not going to tell you nothing that, you know, if I don't quote the source, I'm at least going to, say it in a way that it can point you in the right direction where you can go check it out for yourself. I'm not telling you to believe every word I'm saying. This is America. Go do your research yourself and figure out who we are and understand, and follow, and understand who we are. You know, so let's get Zechariah 9:6. And it says, "A bastard shall dwell in Asgard, and I will cut off the pride of the Philistines." So who's these bastards that's dwelling in Asgard? The so-called Israelis, the so-called Palestinians, the people that's over in that land right now, the so-called Arab people, the so-called, people that's in that land right now. Those are the bastards that's in Asgard. And Asgard is just another word for Israel, Jerusalem, right? It says, "And I will cut off the pride of the Philistines." The Philistines is the so-called Palestinians, who we call today, right? So we got to understand what this Bible is saying. The Bible is giving you the clues of who we are and letting you know that the so-called people, when you understand prophecy, you'll see that these people does not match up with that. Just do it like in school, they have some called process of elimination, right? So let's do a process of elimination. You think about every nation on this planet. You think about where they're from, right? And draw a line from the people and to the country that they belong to, right? Then after you do that so many times, you would come to a spot where you will get to two different groups of people, us and then the so-called European. And you'll come to understand that these two groups of people is not where they're supposed to be at. I know you might say, well, I call them so-called European because that's colloquially how we speak. But they're not even from Europe. They're not even from anywhere you might see their faces at. They're not from Australia. They're not from Canada. They're not from New Zealand. They're not from South America. They're not even from. Of course, they're not from America. That's not their original land. That's why they're called Caucasians. Their original land is them being in the cracks and the holes of mountains. That's where they come from. Caves. Caucasian meaning cave dweller, right? So, so when you do that process elimination, you'll understand that you will come to two groups of people that's not where they supposed to be, right? So then you got to understand, after you do that process of elimination, that it's been a mishap. Something is not right. Because if the European is not originally from these areas that they lay claim to, and then we're not originally from where we supposed to be at, then something is the matter. Somebody is living somewhere that they should not be living at. That's what we call process of elimination. So then you have to do the whole thing over. And you'll find that we came from, Jerusalem. We came from Israel, which would be Northeast Africa. All right. Yeah, they try to act like Israel is not on the same platonic plate, platonic plate of Africa, because they made the Suez Canal, to try to split everything up. But when you know and understand geography, that's Northeast Africa, all right? And it always been Northeast Africa. So That's where we're from. And these people are from either Mount Seir, you can put them at, or in the Caucasus Mountains, which is the same thing. You know, they're mountain people. So you got to understand that. Then let's go back to Ezekiel real quick, 7:21. It says, "And I will give unto the hands of the strangers for prey, and to the wicked of the earth for spoil, and they shall pollute it." Talking about our land, talking about Israel, talking about he's going to give it to the strangers. And that's who's over there now. This is prophecy. We reading Ezekiel the prophet who's prophesying stuff that happened way before, that's going to happen to according to him way in the future, you know. So, and we're living in that time now. This is why this stuff makes so much sense to us, because we can see this historically play out, you know, and we can see it with our eyes how this stuff had came about. So, just real quick, get Daniel 12, right? Get let's get Daniel 12:8. No, let's start at 7, right? It says Daniel 12:7. And I heard the man clothed in linen, talking about Yahweh, which sat upon the waters of the river, uh, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto the heavens, and swear by him that liveth forever that it shall be a time and half a time, when he shall have accomplished to uh, to shatter the power of to scatter the power of the holy people of all these things shall be finished, right? So Daniel's seeing a prophecy of certain things that have to come to pass in the world, right? Then it says, "And I heard, but I understood not. Then I said, O my Lord, what shall be the end of these things?" Right. So now Daniel's asking the question like, okay, so I see what you asked me to write. I see what you want me to say, but what is going to be the end of these things, right? Then he said, many shall be purified and made white and tried, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand. So this is why a lot of these people, those people, especially with the curly hair and the small hats, they can't understand this book. That's why they have to create other books to try to make it seem like that they are part of this whole thing, right? It says, because the wicked, uh, none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. And we're wise in this thing. That's why we understand this stuff. You know, this is why we can go through these different scriptures and break them down and see how it's applicable to us. Because we're wise in this thing. He gave us the blessing to understand this book, right? Then it says, and from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, an abomination that maketh desolation shall set there, and shall be 1,002 and 90 in 90 days. Right? Talking about when the Greeks came through and put that Zeus statue inside of our temple. And when they took down our temple and started, doing all types of crazy stuff. Then when it says 1,002 90 days, that is talking about spiritually years, right? So that's the dispensation of time with how long it took us to get to the west coast of Africa, right? Then it says, from the time. Okay. And blessed is he that waiteth and come to the 1,305 and 30 days. Like I said, the dispensation of time of how long it took us to travel, right? Then it says, but go through thy way until the end be, for thou shalt rest uh, and stand in thy lot at the end of days, right? So hold on, let's see what else. So we got to understand that certain things, certain prophecies, that supposed to come about is only for us to understand in these last days. That's why this stuff is coming so clear to us now, and that's why we can see these certain things. And you got to understand, technically, we've been in the last days since John the Baptist, and that's like almost 2,000 years ago. So we've been living in the time of the last days. So if the last days started 2,000 years ago, then how much time left you think we really have? You know, so That's why you when you see these certain things, because it tells you that Esau is the end of the world and Jacob is the world that follows. So, and we know who's ruling the world right now is Esau. So we know that we're in that last time. This is not a drill. We don't have a million more years to go. We are right here. 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter, right? And we understand that you know that we are in that time where things, that we are in those last days. And it says, let's check it out real quick. So we got to understand where we at in this thing. So right here, this is a second Esdras 6 and 9. For Esau, now Esau is the biblical name of the so-called Europeans, right? So-called white people. It says, for Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob, which is our, biblical name for the Israelites, because Jacob's name was changed to Israel. And we are the sons and daughters of Jacob. It says, for Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follows. So this is a prophecy letting you know during the end times, in the last days, the so-called Europeans will be ruling the world at the end when Christ come back, when Yahushua comes back. The Edomites, the children of Esau, will be in rulership. But when Christ come back and establish the new government, then we're going to be um, the beginning of the world that follows. Because we're going to be having control. We're going to be that super nation that you know that nation that controls everything, right? And so to let you know that it says, for Esau's the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of the world that follows, right? And so let's start up at 8, though. Read it. It says, and he said unto me, from Abraham to Isaac, and when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob hand Jacob hand held first the heel of Esau. So letting you know when these two boys were born, these twins, it was the symbolism when Jacob took Esau's heel, and it says, then it jumped down to 10, and the hand of man is betwixt of the hill and the betwixt of the hill and in the hand. So meaning it's all about ebony and ivory, right? White and black. So when Esau's going to be ruling at the end of, when it's going to be ruling and basically run this world to destruction, all the way into Yahushua comes back. So then it says the hand of man, or it says the hand of man is betwixt between them, meaning the other nations that's outside of the so-called Europeans and the so-called and us Israelites, they're gonna have their time in the middle, in between, but it's basically all about them and us. That's the thing. So then it says And the hand of man is betwixt the heel of the hand, and other questions Ezra asks not. So so yes, that's the breakdown. So it's so like I said, so we're living in that time where these people are in control of things, and so then like I said, so as they, their empire comes to an end, then we're gonna be gathered together, and as we're being gathered now spiritually through our understanding, then we got next, like they say in basketball, right? So then let's get what's this? Let's get Daniel real quick. Go back to Daniel 11 and 14. It says, "In those times there shall be many stand up against the king of the south, and robbers of thy people shall exalt themselves and establish the vision, but they shall fail." So, like I said, so and that's what we're seeing now. These people is coming against our people, and and like I said, in their time, you know, and then they're gonna fail at the end. Yeah, it look like that we're down at the bottom. We're the bottom of society, but our great redemption is coming. You know what I'm saying? Because we're gonna be that next ruling class of people, and because that's what we were designed to do. When you get into it, when you understand what this book is saying, because you got to understand this is our book. This book is about our rise and our fall, and our rise to power again, right? So let's get this one real quick. So it says, and it shall come to pass if thou shalt. This is Deuteronomy 28:1. It shall come to pass if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of Yahweh thy power, to observe and to do all his commandments which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee above high above all nations. So that's our position. That's where we're supposed to be, above all nations. But this is a contingency, because what it says, if we shall do what he asks us to do. But when you read this book, you understand that our people did not always follow what God wanted us to do. So that's why we're currently in this position that we're in collectively as a people. And all these blessings shall come upon thee and overtake thee. And if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of Yahweh thy power, blessed shall thou be in the city, and blessed thou shalt be in the field. Right? Blessed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy ground, and the fruit of thy cattle, the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. Blessed shall be the basket of thy store. Blessed shall be when thou comest, and blessed shall be thou when thou goest. And the Lord shall cause thy enemies to rise up against thee, and smitten them before thy face. And that's not what's happening right now. These people that come against us, they're able to do whatever they want to do to it. When we get that's why when we see them blue lights in the behind the behind us when we're getting pulled over, our heartbeat beating so fast, because we still live in fear, we still live in doubt, because we're not following the commandments. We don't know if this officer have a good day or a bad day. He might walk up to your car with his hand on the gun already, and all that, right? So so we got to understand that it says, but the Lord shall cause thy enemies to rise up against thee, to be smitten before thy face. They shall come out against thee one way, and flee before thee 7 ways. That's not happening right now. You know, they're not scared of us. Like I said, they're not scared of us. Because if you live in, what they might call a hood, you see white folks walking up and down the street all the time, walking their dogs. They're not scared. In fact, they're gentrifying our neighborhoods to prove that they're not scared. They come in and they change everything that they don't like, and so they're not scared, right? So, but this is a prophecy of us ruling over them. So let's get this one too real quick. This Deuteronomy 7:6, and it says, For thou art a holy people," talking about us, the Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans. We are a holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God had chosen thee to be a special people unto himself. So that's who we are towards the Lord. We are a special people unto himself. And check it out. What it say? Above all people that are on the face of the earth. What are we? Above all people that's on the face of the earth. So that's our natural position. Because that's how God created us to be rulers. That's why we call ourselves kings and queens, right? Now, how could you be a king and a queen, but you think you equal with somebody else? That's crazy. Then that means that person is a king and a queen. No, the Black, Hispanic, Native American, and Seminole Indian are the kings and the queens of this planet, right? That's how it works. So, and it tells you right here. It says, "For Yahweh did, let's see, for thou art a chosen people unto the Yahweh thy power. The Yahweh thy power had chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are on the face of the earth." So, and we just read in 28 and 1, and it shall come to pass if thou hearken diligently unto the voice of uh, the Lord thy God to observe to do all his commandments which I command thee this day, um, the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. So this is his promise to make us the greatest people. Why do you think that we're so dominant in everything that we do? We're the best singers, best actors, best dancers, best cooks, best inventors, because we invented so many things. Even these cell phones I'm using right now to record on YouTube and on Facebook, we invented that stuff. We invented the radiator. We invented the refrigerator. We invented the stoplight. We invented the windshield wiper. Anything you could think of. We invented all the cool stuff that we still use today. But think about it. Inventions come out of necessity, right? Now, if somebody got one group of people subjugated to them in slavery, what is the purpose of white people inventing anything to make us more, you know, make things more beneficial towards us? We are the first heart surgeons. You know, we are the first doctors. We did so many things. So we got to understand our greatness, right? And so yeah, we got to understand our greatness and who we are as a people. So and understand and come back to the law, statutes, and commandments, and keep these laws that God gave us through Moses, so we can get out of this place. Because, like I said, when World War III kicks off, we don't want to be here because it's going to be a time that's worse than anything that we can imagine. You know, and that's what you got to understand. You know, and you don't want to be here because we're getting ready to see a time worse than anything we ever imagined. And Biden and them people are scared. That's why they keep taking all our tax dollars and giving it to those people over there. You know, and hundreds of billions of dollars they keep sending over there just to try to keep those people, the Putin and his peoples and his cronies at bay, right? But it's not working because Putin is still doing what he's doing and he's not stopping. Then you got to look at it like this, because Putin is fighting them. But then you got America and their allies that's funding and making sure Ukraine can be able to stand up. So after a while, Putin's like, okay, I'm fighting them, but I'm actually kind of fighting y'all because y'all keep giving them the money and the military supplies. Why don't I just fight y'all? We can X the middleman out. Forget about this whole Ukrainian stuff. Why don't I push the button on you guys? Because you guys are the ones that's helping them, right? Isn't that what any sensible person would do? If you in a fight with somebody, if you at war with a person, and then you doing your best to take them out, but then you find out that this person is getting supplied by this other person that's trying to act like they neutral. You know, they're getting supplied by this person, so it's like, man, I could have been took this person out, but you just keep every time I destroy what they got, you come in and reimburse them. So why don't I destroy you, the reimburser? Then I won't have to worry about these people anymore. So that's what a smart person would think. But of course, that would lead into nuclear war. Millions and millions, potential billions of people dying. And nobody wants that technically, but that's where it's going to happen. You know, because you can only push a person's hand so much, and you got to understand that those people over there got a hell of an arsenal when it comes to nuclear fire. You can look all of this stuff up. You can see what they got. America Pentagon did war simulations against fighting Russia in them, and they lost every time. So that's no wonder why they trying to push all this money into the hands of the Ukrainians because they don't want to fight Russia because they know they will lose. So they hoping at least they can weaken them or at least get Russia to be like, all right, let's call it a peace treaty. Then it ends that way. But it's not going to end that way because the Bible says it's not going to happen like that. Because the Bible says that they shall burn her with fire. And who is that her? America. That's who's going to get burnt with that fire. And that fire is that nuclear arsenal that Russia and China and Iran and Korea and India and all the other little people got over there together. Then not only that, it tells you that in Revelation, I think 17, I believe, that even America's allies who they dealing with, they gonna turn on them too and blow them up. So America is really out here bogus because Germany is already on the fence. You got Turkey, which is a white country, but they practice Islam, so they really not really so much connected to the West because most of the West is so called Christian people or whatever. So they already got a disconnect, even though they're part of NATO. So they still helping out with they still got certain deals with Russia. So the whole NATO and European Union thing is already split, just like how the Bible tells you that they're going to be split. Let's get that real quick, because I don't want you to think I'm just talking. Let's go to Obadiah 1:7. It says, "For all the men that of that confederacy, meaning all the confederacy means the people that's together, they together, right?" It says, "All the men of that confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with them, because they are at peace. The European Union, the NATO, those are all countries. They come together, they meet like however so often that they may meet, and they come up with plans on how to rule the world and keep us subjugated." Says, "All the men of that confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee." So, like I said, a lot of the NATO members, a lot of the EU members is going to turn on America. And it says, "And prevail against thee, they shall eat thy bread and lay a wound under thee. There is no understanding in them," meaning you're not going to be able to talk them out of it. You're not going to be able to stop them from doing what they're going to do. Because they're going to realize that America got them into a lot of shit, got them into a lot of trouble. You know what I'm saying? And they ain't going to want this drama anymore. You know what I'm saying? So, and, um, and they're gonna realize that, and then they're like, "Man, why are we fighting with these people when we can fight with those people? Those people being the Russians." And then they're gonna team up with the Russians, and they're gonna let's see what the Bible says about it. No, 1 second, bear with me. Let's see what the book says about it. Let's see. All right, this is Revelation 17, right? It says, "And the 10 horns which thou sawest," because the 10 horns is that EU, is that NATO, right? That's what it is in the Bible. When you, because it's not that little mystical Harry Potter stuff, you hear a dragon with 10 heads. It's talking about a governmental systems. That's what it's talking about. So it says, uh, the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. Who is the whore? America. Because it tells you when you get into this book, it tells you that the whore is riding on this beast that of 10 horns, and America is the head nation of NATO and these European unions. They make it, whatever America do, these other countries gonna follow along with it. So it says, the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and they shall make her desolate. What's gonna happen to America? They're gonna make her desolate. So I'm not just when you hear me talk about certain things about Russia and all this stuff, I'm not speaking my own words. And it's not that I'm like a cheerleader for Russia, because they're Edomites too. They're part of Esau too. And they're going down. Awesome. But it's just that Yahweh, our power, our God, is using them to take out America. Then after he used them to take out America, then he's gonna take them out. So me understanding prophecy and me wanting this stuff to come to pass, so yeah, I'm gonna say yeah, go Russia, go, because I understand the whole BR, which is Russia gonna be destroyed too when it's all said and done, and we can read about that in Ezekiel 38 on how Russia and them other countries gonna get destroyed after they take out America. So, like I said, it says the 10 horns which thou saw upon the beast uh, shall hate the whore, and they shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. How is they gonna burn her with fire with those nuclear bombs that all these other countries got? Because America is a bully. It's just like when that one person stand up to the bully in school, then everybody else realized like, hey, we can do it too. And then they all just start jumping the bully and beating up the bully. And it's like a big old event. Now everybody's just jumping the bully now and they're getting their revenge. That's what's gonna happen. So and that's what the Bible says. And you know why we believe it? Because it's prophecy. Because the Bible says that we were going to go to slavery on slave ships, and guess what? It happened. The Bible said we were going to be kicked out of Jerusalem. Guess what? It happened. So that's why we believe it, because these prophecies do not fail at all. You know, so we understand these things. And, so it's not that we just coming off of our vain opinion when we talk about these things. We have the book to back it up. Because the Bible tells you, written about this stuff long ago before any of this stuff came to pass. It's just that we've been caught up in Christianity so much, and Christianity done taught us this false doctrine that we don't understand the book. Because, like I was saying last time, without them actually saying it, without the pastor actually saying, "Hey, you know better than God," they don't say that, but they teach and they say things in such a way that implies and help you develop this thought process that you know better than God. That's why the average Christian, you ask an average Christian about the Bible or certain questions, that's why they will say, "I think," or "I feel," or "I believe." They'll say those things. And when you talk like that, you're basically saying, without saying it, that you know better than God, because it is written in this book already on the manuscripts, not just the so-called Bible, what we call the Bible, the ancient manuscripts, because a lot of people get it twisted. They say, "Oh, well, the Bible been translated and all this stuff, blah, blah, blah." We got the manuscripts. Do you understand that? We have the manuscripts. The manuscripts have not been touched. And we read the manuscripts. We understand the manuscripts. And when you understand the manuscripts and you get into this, you understand that as far as what we call the King James Version is the closest to the manuscripts that is written in Hebrew. We understand that. We have the Hebrew. So it's not that we just winging it and not just reading a whole bunch of stuff that we don't understand, or we just making up some stuff. No. Because we have what they call manuscripts, and the Bible has not, like, this is a translation. I say hi. The translation of hi is hola, right? In Spanish. That is a translation. Because hi and hola is the same thing. That's what translation means. So a lot of people think, oh, the Bible been translated, and they're using words that they don't even understand. Translation just meaning you find that word in that language that you're translating it to that means the same thing. This is transliteration. Transliteration is I say hi. Then the transliteration of hi would be what's up. That is a transliteration. It's uh not the direct corresponding to hi, but in the transliteration, what's up and hi would be equal, if you understand what I'm saying. Or somebody say what's good, then the transliteration of that will be hi. So it's a difference between translation and transliteration. All right. So that's what you gotta understand. Cause like, cause certain books, certain Bibles are thought for thought, meaning like, okay, instead of writing down the translation of what they're saying, we're gonna read it and then we're gonna tell the people what we think that they was trying to say. Right? That's what I got the good news right here. That's what the good news book does. They give you what they think that they was trying to say. You know, and or the NLV. It gives you what they think that they were trying to say. But we have to understand, we got to get off that, because too much stuff happening to still think that this Bible is not real. Because like I said, 'cause we can see certain things that come to pass, and when you read this thing with understanding and understand that translation, just because something is translated, it doesn't mean it was tampered with. Because like I said, even if you want to say that, we still have the ancient manuscripts, the source documents that we can look at and to see what is actually being said. All right, we still got that. So, and that's what we have to understand. Because people think that the council, when they did the thing to bring all the books together, right? They thought it was a bunch. They think it's a bunch of white men sitting in a room together. No, look where it took place in Africa, right? And and think about this. When you look at all the places that the manuscripts were found, they're found in Africa. Like, white people are not native to Africa. I know they done trick you and make you think that Egypt is some type of area in Sweden somewhere, and separate from Africa. But no, all that stuff took place in Africa, written by us. That's why I say it's like FUBU, for us, by us. It's written by people that look like me and you. All right. That's what you gotta understand. Your ancestors wrote this book. It didn't come by no white man, because this book condemns the white man. If the white man actually understood this book on how it's actually written, they would burn every last damn copy of this book. It wouldn't be no Bible. If they really understood what this Bible is actually saying, it would be no Bible. So it's not written by them, because this Bible is against them. If the white man wrote the book, it wouldn't say this. It's Revelation 13 and 9. If any man have an ear, meaning if you can understand, he that leads into captivity shall go into captivity. So the white man took us into slavery, right? And not just us, you know, the whole known world. They subjugate a lot of people, right, into slavery. It says, he that leads into captivity shall go into captivity. He that kills with the sword must be killed with the sword. Why would he leave that in the book? Hmm? Because then anybody that reads this book with common sense will say, well, the so-called Europeans took us to slavery, so by this logic, they need to go into slavery. So then we will enact on that. So why would they leave it in there if they wrote the book? And it says, "He that killed with the sword must be killed with the sword." We know they go around the world killing everybody. They got 100 and something army bases scattered all across the world in different countries. This empire called America, right? Check this out.